Hey, how's it going, guys, and welcome back. Today's video is going to be one that I've wanted to make, but really have had a hard time getting the words out and sort of putting together the direction of. There's so many things I want to talk about when it comes to this whole Untamed Isles situation, and with many content creators discussing the issue from a more outside perspective, I thought that being the monster tamer guy, I should probably address it in its own separate video. I did talk about the situation when it happened during our Monster Tamer news segment a while back, but I think that this will be a good way to sort of get out my thoughts regarding not only Untamed, but the whole crypto games and their implementation in the genre as well. The goal of this video is not to vilify the developers or create drama, but instead to shed a little bit of light onto not only the situation with Untamed itself, but also how it's affected the community and myself. I also don't just want to go over how the game crashed, I also want to talk about what would need to be done in order to have it create a viable landscape for a resurgence. So with all that being said, make sure to sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Alright, so first things first, what was Untamed Isles and where is it at now? Well, Untamed Isles was essentially going to be a monster taming MMORPG with a ton of really interesting and honestly kind of hype MMO elements that something like even Temtem is lacking in my opinion. The game was going to have an open world, proximity voice chat, battles that take place right in the overworld where other people can watch, a really cool and unique crossbreeding system that allows for literally millions of combinations due to each monster having body parts that could be swapped out, an area where players could essentially force each other into battle, sort of like the wilderness from RuneScape, etc. To me and many others, this was the monster taming MMO that we wanted. No disrespect to Temtem, but Temtem's more like an RPG with MMO elements rather than being a full-scale MMO like RuneScape or World of Warcraft. Untamed Isles was supposed to lean very heavily into that MMO aspect, and again, a lot of us were mesmerized by the idea. I played their alpha when it came out, and it seemed pretty good. I will say that the battle system itself needed work. No offense to Wolfie who developed it, but it was pretty confusing right out the gate with a bunch of unexplained aspects, but you kind of expect that with alpha, as these tend to be very rough. So back when the game had its Kickstarter campaign, I and many others backed it because the game looked good and it looked like it had a lot going for it. At the time, many people did not really fully grasp the situation behind crypto games in general, and just as many people didn't even really know this game specifically was a crypto game because they didn't read through the full Kickstarter. Now, while I agree the game should have had crypto right in the forefront so people knew what they were getting into, I also do think it is your responsibility to actually read a Kickstarter campaign before you back it, because while I didn't really understand what crypto was or the negative implications behind it at the time, I at least knew that crypto was a part of the game when I backed it. But on that note, such ignorance on my part is no longer acceptable or true. This is because I've seen a lot of monster taming games specifically try to dip their toes in crypto, and let me just say, pretty much every one I've seen so far is an NFT simulator with a monster taming skin. My business inbox has been flooded with business opportunities from various crypto monster taming developers whom, upon further inspection, are either using default assets, stolen assets, or are just not even games, they're just a collection of NFTs. This is why I've distanced myself from any game that has crypto elements within it, because you run into a few major issues, even if in theory it is possible to have a good game with these elements included. Firstly, you end up with a bunch of investors for a player base which don't actually care about what's good for the game, but only pushing how much they can earn by playing it. And secondly, as Yong pointed out in his video, the reliance on the crypto market can be devastating. Now, I'm a firm believer that you should never paint a group with a broad brush, but when it comes to crypto, I'd say about 99.999% of these games are either predatory in nature or aren't even actually games. I mean, hell, it's almost laughable at times. I saw one crypto game trying to tweet at Elon Musk to make their NFTs go to the moon a few months back, and this game actually had Pokeballs in them, which just further perpetuates the idea that every monster taming game is a Pokemon clone, which is something that we've been fighting against on this channel. Now, back to Untamed Isles, essentially what happened was their largest investors pulled out, which essentially left the game without money. A common misconception is that they went and invested all their money into crypto, but this isn't the case. They actually spent most of it on staff wages, but were heavily reliant on this crypto investor. Now, this kind of dips into the KiraTV territory, where Kira is a YouTube channel that's very adamant that 99.9% of MMO Kickstarter games never end up making it because of the high costs associated. Then you couple that with the 99.9% of crypto games that end up with massive issues, and you can see that more cynical gamers at the time already saw this as a massive red flag. A lot of people are really upset too because refunds for the Kickstarter campaign were not issued as the studio is broke, and the game has been put into hibernation until further notice, which presumably will change when the crypto market picks up again. Now, this is the thing. Will it pick up again? If it does pick up again, will you even want to follow or support the game? Because the second it goes back down, we might see another hibernation. The problem with the game is that it's super reliant on a market that's extremely volatile and easily manipulated, and even if crypto does have another boom, it's likely going to be followed by a heavy correction or crash. I honestly only see a couple options for a potential resurgence or comeback of Untamed Isles, and whatever they do decide to do, it's going to leave a decent amount of people pissed off, but I'd rather have half the people pissed than everybody pissed. The first option is just to completely cut everything crypto related out of the game and rescale it. This will obviously piss off anybody who invested just for crypto and might even upset a lot of people who were expecting certain features in the game. But again, if we've learned anything from the countless Kickstarter games that just never came out, I'd rather have a smaller scale game than no game. Now, when I talk about them reducing the game size, I think the only way for them to truly bounce back without crypto is if they cut out the MMO aspect. Now, this was one of their biggest selling points, but it's also what makes the game so expensive to develop. MMOs cost an insane amount of money, and I have a hard time believing that many people are going to want to invest in this game outside of the crypto market after what's happened. So cutting this feature might be the only way for them to do it with a small development team. I'd imagine it would essentially be a single player open world monster taming RPG with PvP and maybe co-op functionality, or if they are able to amp it up a bit, they could have like small servers where you could join a few friends, sort of like a reduced version of Ark. The other option is that they just sit and pray for a bull market in the crypto scene and try to develop the game as fast as possible before it crashes again. This option would also piss off a lot of the backers that didn't know it was a crypto game, and would also create a fan base that is completely uninvested and untrusting of the development studio. The only benefit to this is that perhaps if they were somehow able to make a bunch of money again because of crypto, they could at least refund anyone that doesn't want to be part of it anymore, but that's relying on a massive gamble. One thing a lot of people point out is that technically Kickstarter doesn't require that they refund people, but again, as pointed out in Yong's video, they promised to refund people if push came to shove, and even if they can avoid legal repercussions, the law doesn't necessarily dictate morality, nor does it stop the loss of goodwill. At the end of the day, I'm not expecting my money back. I don't think it's going to happen. I take responsibility for not understanding the risks as far as crypto is concerned, and I apologize to the few fans that were excited for this game because they saw how excited I was for this game. I was a much smaller channel at the time, and while I was not responsible for the vast majority of funds added to the game, I'm sure there were at least a couple people that saw my video and were like, oh, this game looks sick, I'm going to back it too. And ever since this situation, I've been far more cynical when it comes to Kickstarter showcases and stuff to that effect, if you haven't noticed with the most recent Kickstarter games that have made their way to the forefront. As someone who has a voice for the monster taming genre, a genre that's already had issues with media attention, with literally everything being dubbed a Pokemon clone regardless of how different and unique the games are from Pokemon, the last thing we need is a bunch of crypto drama too. So that's basically where we're at with the whole situation. I don't know if the team over at Untamed is planning anything, but if they do decide to remove the crypto elements and try to make some sort of decent game, even if they strip a lot of the elements that were initially planned, as long as the game ends up being good and as long as the developers are forthcoming, honest, and passionate, I do think that they could regain some goodwill over time, and the majority of the gaming community, whilst remaining skeptical, I think would rally behind that type of decision over just waiting for the next crypto boom. I personally will not be supporting this game unless the crypto elements are removed, and the same goes for any other game in the genre that wants to include these elements, because honestly, I'm getting sick and tired of all the drama associated with them, and I'm not going to sit here and defend something that I'm not even interested in. I've personally never seen the benefits of having crypto implemented into these games. It was more just, oh, Untamed looks cool, sucks that it has crypto, but it looks cool, so I want to follow its development. It was never, oh, cool, it has crypto, that's amazing. It was always like, ugh, I wish it didn't have crypto. All that being said, I am, however, someone who is open to these development studios creating their own non-crypto games, and perhaps I'm an optimist, but I do believe in second chances. Those second chances, however, are contingent upon effort to earn said second chance. So all in all, this has been a massive weight on my shoulder that I haven't really had the opportunity to get off, but as I'm finishing this spiel, I feel really good just to let it out. I just wanted to say special thanks to Yong for creating his video, because after watching his and a few others, it sort of helped me figure out which angle I wanted to take this video, because there's just so much to unpack between the rise of the game, the fall of the game, the issue with crypto games, specifically in the monster taming genre, what I think they could do to gain a little bit of goodwill, how they could make the game non-crypto, etc. It was just so much stuff that I wanted to talk about. I wasn't sure which order to do it, how to go about it, and watching all these different videos kind of missed the more specific monster taming aspects behind this. and the context of the genre gave me that sort of spot I wanted to fill that no one else really can unless they're as invested in the genre as we are. So I do apologize if this video is a little bit jumbled and all over the place. I really did my best with it, but this is sort of where we're at. If you do want to stay up to date on monster taming news, guides, breakdowns, or even just want to know what becomes of Untamed Isles in the future, because while I won't support it if it continues its same path, I will keep you guys informed. Definitely subscribe to my channel because I put out new monster taming content every single day. You can check out my Twitter, my Discord, Patreon, all that fun stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.